Thank you all so much for being here and being with our family today. It means a lot. I am his youngest daughter and favorite redhead, and this is my older sister. Because of his faith in Christ, my dad is more alive now than anyone in this room. I remind myself of this every day. Not to make myself feel better, although it does. I remind myself of this because it's true. 1 Thessalonians 4 says that as believers, we don't mourn as those who have no hope because we will be together again. Many people knew my dad as a great dentist, some as a church member and friend, but to my sister and I, he was just dad. Here's life from our perspective. Some people would say he had a passion for excellence, but if you lived with him, you knew that was just how he did everything. It ran through his blood. He didn't know how to do anything not excellent. A few years ago, my dad and I were driving to a Christmas party in East Texas, just the two of us. I started the conversation with the classic, "So, what have you been up to, Dad?" And he proceeded to tell me about his Sunday school class that he absolutely loved. If my dad ever loved something, he wanted to share it with everyone. He proceeded to tell me how he paid a guy to create a website for the class. Then he paid his personal assistant to attend Sunday school class with him so they could record it every week and post it online. Now, this is a class of about 10 people or 15 people. Pretty soon, they had listeners in China, Russia, and parts of South America. Then he made notebooks for everyone in the class. When we got home from the Christmas party, I asked to see his notebook. He pulled it out and I said, "Wow, that is a beautiful picture of the church. Where did you get that?" He said, "Well, I found this online and then I sent it to an animator at Disney and he edited it." I said, "Dad, you had your Sunday school notebook designed by Disney?" And he said, "I wanted it to look nice." There's excellence and then there's sending your school notebook to Disney excellence. I can only imagine what he's doing in heaven. My dad was an amazing example of not letting anything stop him. And when he said he was going to help you, you had better prepare for a force like no other to be behind you. In the summer of 2021, I developed a terrible infection in my right hand. I couldn't use it at all. I tried to power through and handle it on my own, but once my dad found out, he would have none of it. He called me every day to check on me. He would call in the morning and ask, "How's your hand?" He would call in the afternoon and ask, "How is your hand now?" He let me know getting my hand healed was his #1 priority, and he was going to pay for all my medical bills. One day he called and said, "Jaclyn, I'm going to get the church to pray for you." Next time I looked at the prayer list at church, my name was at the very top, right above our senior pastor. I was so embarrassed. Next, he sent me to a doctor he found. He called me and said, "Jaclyn, call me right after your appointment." Knowing my dad could be a stickler about punctuality, I said, "Well, I'll call you sometime today, but it might not be right after my appointment." He said, "Okay," and we hung up. He called me again 5 minutes later. "Hey, Jaclyn, I talked to the doctor, and the doctor is going to call me right after your appointment. But you call me too later." Nothing stopped my dad. He loved his girls, my mom, my sister, and myself. If you were a patient, you heard about us. If you were a staff member or colleague, you heard about us. And if you were in his Sunday school class, you heard about us. He was so proud of Harry's angels. My sister and I have done a lot of things any parent would be proud of. Graduated college, progressed in our careers, helped people in need. But there was one thing he was proud of far above the rest. And if you were with him, you heard it nearly every day. I graduated college with a degree in finance, but upon graduation, I really felt God wanted me to take an internship serving college students. I led Bible studies, told college students about Jesus, and led mission trips. The pay was $600 a month. I was in my parents' bedroom one night, telling my mom how some people asked how much money I was making, and I was embarrassed to tell them. My dad walked in and interrupted with, "I tell everyone you make $600 a month. I'm so proud of you. I call you my $600 daughter." I was mortified, but there was no sense in asking him to not say that. He said whatever he wanted to say. One night, he was telling me how proud he was of my work at the Baptist Student Ministry. He told me how proud he was nearly every time I saw him. He told me, "Jaclyn, I do my root canals as unto the Lord, but you share the gospel with people." Not many men of his intellect and stature would see my job as supremely valuable. It never bothered him I didn't make much money. In fact, he was prouder because of it. My dad had a childlike faith I have seen in few people. Anytime someone had a problem, his first solution was to pray about it. His second solution was to call all his friends to pray about it. On one occasion, I got to teach my dad's Sunday school class. I decided to teach a lesson on how to share the gospel with friends. Some people said older people didn't want to hear the gospel and were hardened by life. But my dad listened intently to everything I said. A couple weeks later, I got a call from him. He said, "Jaclyn, I did what you said. I called my friend Hillis and told him how Jesus died on the cross for his sins and wants a relationship with him. He accepted Christ. What next?" I loved his childlike faith, but now his faith is sight. One of the things I respect most about my dad is the pure genius he was. He found new ways to do surgeries, developed new tools for dentistry, and found cancer in patients when other doctors missed it. He is brilliant and creative. I didn't fully realize how sharp he was until a few months ago. He was sedated in ICU for 2 days. We were preparing to be sent to another floor, and he was getting lots of things taken off him. The nurse pulled a 12-inch tube out of his neck, and I gasped, and I said, "What is that for?" And my dad, lying there, said, "The anterior vena cava." The nurse looked at me and said, "He's right." Last weekend, my mom and I were at a dental conference, and another dentist came up to us and was talking about my dad, and he said, "Dr. Sugg was fully engaged every single day. Every day, he had a new idea." I bet that was really hard to live with. He was brilliant. You've probably heard the saying, "Behind every great man is a great woman." And my mom has done incredible caring for my dad for 41 years, 9 months, and 4 days. But there's one other person who worked tirelessly caring for him, my sister. Laura gets a lot of credit for helping both our parents the past many years. She's made incredible sacrifices to help them, researched the best products to make our dad more comfortable, and managed their business. Laura gets the Daughter of the Year award. Like any family, things weren't perfect. In our home, it was 4 flawed people trying to get along. We've talked about the things we're sad we didn't get to ask him or do with him. But now, my dad is made perfect with Jesus. One day, my mom, my sister, and myself will die and be with Jesus too. And for the rest of eternity, we will enjoy relationship together that we couldn't fathom on earth. The regrets of this life are overshadowed by the joy we know is coming. It was really hard for me to grasp that the Lord called my dad home. I thought surely we were going to have a few more years together. We had plans of things we were going to do this fall. But I have found comfort in John 16. Jesus is speaking and says, "Now I am going away to the one who sent me. And not one of you is asking where I'm going, but in fact, it is best for you that I go away." I don't understand why God took him at this time, but I trust that God is doing what he knows is best. One blessing has been hearing so many stories of my dad that I never heard before. I have traits from both my parents, but I'm probably most like my dad. My mom calls me Little Harry or Harrietta. Recently, several of us were sitting around telling stories, and someone remarked, "I don't even know why we miss Harry. Jaclyn's sitting right here." I love that I am so much like my dad. I think he's so cool, quirks and all, and trust me, there's a lot of quirks. When he was 32, he was starting his practice and without his father to cheer him on. Now I'm 32 and carrying on his practice, but I know he is cheering for me. Several months ago, I told him how I was enjoying managing the practice, and he said to me, "Me too." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I'm enjoying watching you manage the practice." He was always very clear with me and all the employees. The office is to run just the same without me. And just the same means getting better every day. It's the honor of a lifetime to be Harry Sugg's daughter, to have his DNA be made in his image and have his characteristics. There are so many ways I desire to be just like my daddy. Here's to receiving the greatest inheritance ever. I'm so thankful for who he made me to be and eager to carry on his legacy. No one wanted to live more than my dad, and now he's living more than ever. Thank you.